What's up, guys? This is TheKephas. So I'm getting down to the nitty gritty here for all the classes and specs to be macroed. And there is a reason why Outlaw rogues, almost call them combat rogues, I'm old school. There's a reason why Outlaw rogues have taken me so long. And I've come to the conclusion that trying to macro this class is completely pointless. And I'm going to make this video to try and explain why that is for people that have requested that I try and make a macro for this class. Okay, so we'll look at the talents real quick. Look, here's the thing. This build doesn't even matter. Okay, I just kind of flew through this real quick because there are certainly some abilities in here that I could throw in a macro. Okay, there are extra abilities. Roll the Bones is a good example. That would probably work in a macro with Sinister Strike. There's a couple other ones like Adrenaline Rush, maybe Blade Flurry, and some other ones like Killing Spree, maybe if you go with that one. A lot of these are optional though. You don't even have to go with half of them. It just depends on what you go with. Some of these might work okay in a macro, but the issue with this class is the core rotation, the default rotation, even without any additions, without many talents at all. The default rotation is impossible to macro effectively, and I'm going to show you what I mean. Okay, so you're okay. So this is crazy. So you have a couple of abilities for generating combo points. Okay, you have Sinister Strike is your one ability, so that's one button. You also have Ambush. Okay, this is one that you use in stealth. Now, there's no need for me to macro this because all you have to do is just go into stealth and you can put Ambush on your number one. Okay, you can put it in one slot. There's no need to even macro that really at all. Okay, so you just put Ambush there anyways. So you're good there. So there's no need to macro that. And then you have, so you have Sinister Strike. So for generating combo points, Sinister Strike. Now, Sinister Strike with the talents have the chance to activate Opportunity. With Opportunity, you can use Pistol Shot. You only want to use Pistol Shot whenever Opportunity procs. So that's another button. So I can't macro Pistol Shot because it wouldn't work effectively. You'd want to use Pistol Shot either with a modifier or on a separate button. So you have 3 combo point generating abilities in your default rotation, and you really can't macro any of them. Okay, so that's the first problem. Then we get into other abilities. We get into your combo point spenders as I smack the microphone. So there are 3 combo point spenders. Okay, yeah, 3. So you have Slice and Dice, which keep in mind, all your combo point spenders, you would have to use modifiers for or use them on separate buttons because you can't put rogue combo point spenders in a macro because it can use up to 6 combo points or 5, whatever it is. So the macro is not going to know how many combo points you have. It's just going to use the ability. So you can't use rogue spenders in macros. So you have Slice and Dice. You want to keep this one up at all times. And then you have your default one, which is Dispatch, using this this is your default one when as long as Slice and Dice is up, you use this one. Oh, but wait, you also have Between the Eyes. This is another one that has a cooldown. So you want to have Slice and Dice up, you want to use this one on cooldown, and you want to use this one otherwise. Okay, so you have 3 combo point generating abilities. None of them can be macroed, and you have 3 combo point spending abilities. None of them can be macroed. So literally I could make a macro, okay, that works like a lot of my other, rogue macros functions. You can put stealth in there, you go in stealth, and then you use ambush. Okay, so then you're out of stealth. I can put Sinister Strike in there, and then I could probably put roll the bones in there, and then maybe I could put Blade Flurry in there. I guess I could put that in there. But then, of course, a lot of these abilities are spending, energy, and you're going to run into some problems there. But otherwise, like pistol shot. So you have pistol shot, and then you have 3 other combo point spenders. There are literally more extra abilities than I have modifiers for. So this class is just too complicated to even try to macro. It's just, there's too much going on by default. Even without any optional abilities, there's just too much by default to even bother making a macro, in my opinion. It's just not worth it. You're going to have to manage something on a separate button. You just have to. So that, I mean, all the rogue specs in general are difficult. This one, in my opinion, is pretty much pointless. Like, it just depends on your build. Like I said, you could probably put some optional abilities in a macro with Sinister Strike and call it a day. That's the best I could even try to do. But even like abilities like, I mean, you've got Thistle Tea. You don't want to macro this. It's just the way it works. It just, you would not want to macro this. You want to use this when you need to regenerate energy quickly. You know, a lot of these abilities, it's kind of like that. Like they're utilities, you know, like there's just no point in trying to macro this class. Again, you know, like I said, your build might be different. It just depends. But even like, okay, so even with like Adrenaline Rush, this is an off global cooldown ability. You could just make a default macro, like a base macro, and put Adrenaline Rush in with Sinister Strike if you really wanted to. It's an off global cooldown ability. There's no need to create a gnome sequencer macro to do that. So even with that, I mean, you know, you could, and like, okay, so like Roll the Bones, even that ability is, it's a little bit complicated because you don't just want to use this all the time. You only want to have, you really only need to use it enough to keep up 2 buffs or have a specific buff. I don't even remember the name of it. I just kind of did some quick research on this, but like, you don't even want to use this all the time. So just with the way this class plays, with the way the abilities work, there's no need to even try to macro this class, because by default, it's way more complicated than most classes to even try to macro it. So yeah, I wanted to make this video. I hope that makes sense. I'm sure that might disappoint some people, but it's not my fault. It's just like, it's the nature of the class. It's how the class plays. And yeah, I just don't see a point in even trying to macro it. So I hope you guys will understand where I'm coming from here. All right, now check this one out. This is the Arcane Mage. And if you thought that Outlaw Rogues were too complex to macro, then you have not seen anything yet. Because this class, Arcane Mages, have melted my brain. I'm sure there are going to be people out there like, oh, this is an easy class to play. Dude, this class is the most complicated class of all the classes that I've even tried to understand. I don't know if I could wrap my head around this class. It's so crazy how, like, just the way this class plays. I'm sure there are people that love it, but having gone through every class so far, this is like, this is on its own level. Arcane Mage is crazy. So yeah, this class cannot be macroed. I know there are people that have been like, all right, I want to see him tackle Arcane Mages. This is the video where I just say, I can't. I cannot make a macro for this class. It is impossible, dude. I'm not saying it's impossible to play. I'm saying it is practically impossible to macro. So look, I'm sure I have half of this wrong. I'm sure I don't even fully understand how to play this class. I'm trying my best. And I want to get the names of abilities wrong because they all start with Arcane, and I can't keep track. So you've got Arcane Barrage, which this is the one that can, okay, so this is the one that consumes all your charges, right? So I remember how this class works. The base rotation for this class is that you use Arcane Blast to generate arcane charges, and then you spend those, you get 4 usually, and you spend those on Arcane Barrage, right? So that's the core rotation. Now there's the mana burn phase where you just keep, you know, spamming Arcane Blast, or at least this is how you used to do it. I don't even know if this is how you're supposed to do it. You'd burn down your mana with this, and then you'd use Evocation and get your mana back, and then you would start doing the mana conserve phase until this came off cooldown, and then you do the mana burn phase again. Okay, that alone, those three abilities alone, are impossible to macro, dude. You can't do that without using modifiers. And if you're using modifiers, then what's the point of making a macro at all? So yeah, so just that core rotation alone is impossible to macro. So let's get into everything else, okay? Because your other ability is, obviously for AoE, you've got Arcane Explosion. Again, that's got to be done separately. You can't macro that one. Arcane Missiles. It's a channeled ability. You want your clear casting procs to even use this one. So that's not something that you can macro either. so that's out. And then you have all these other abilities, many of which also have cast times. There are some that are instant. So like Arcane Orb. I could probably put Arcane Orb and Arcane Blast on a macro because Arcane Orb does have a cooldown. So yeah, I could pair those. But, Arcane Orb is one of those abilities. It gets kind of weird because of how it works. And then you have these other abilities like Arcane Surge. You've got Mana Gem. You've got Nether Tempest. This one, for example, you want to use this one when you have a bunch of arcane charges. So that one's, and it doesn't have a cooldown, so you can't macro that one either. This is a very complicated class to try and macro. All of these abilities that you add have all these conditions, and it's not just as simple as using it all of them on cooldown. They change up your rotation in a lot of ways. And there are times where I just kind of skimp over the details and just say go with it. But with this class, it is just it is way too complicated to try to make a macro for this class. It is just like I said, the core rotation alone is too much to even try. When you add everything else in the mix, how these abilities work, how they function, how they proc, and different things, all of these are just so complex, too complex to try to macro. I know there are people out there that they've got this class down. It's easy to them, but as a newcomer and having looked at every other class, none of them even came close to frying my brain like this class has. So yeah, there's no, I'm not gonna make any Arcane Mage macros. There might be one on WoW Lazy macros. In fact, I'm probably gonna put this in with the Outlaw Rogue video. If you can probably find some macros for these classes on WoW Lazy macros if you go check it out. But for me, I don't see a way to make a genuinely cohesive, properly functioning, decently performing macro with these classes with how they're designed. And that's nothing against the classes. I mean, there are people that love these classes. It's just that the goal of Gnome Sequencer is to make the game easier for people to play. If you want the game to be easier, then I don't recommend you play Arcane Mage for sure. And you probably don't want to play Outlaw Rogue either. Okay, so if you want to have fewer buttons, stay away from these two classes. I'm sure there are going to be people that are disappointed, but you surely you have to know where I'm coming from on this one. Yeah, you have to. You be reasonable with me here, okay? So yeah, this is it. I did all but 2. That's not bad. All but 2 I got through, and in these last 2, I'm waving the white flag. I've tried. I've looked at them, and I give up, you guys. So I'd say all but 2 is pretty decent. So hopefully you guys have liked my macros for Dragonflights. But with that, we're done. We're wrapping it up here with the macros guides. And yeah, we'll wait for the next expansion. We'll do some stuff in Classic with macros. But with all that being said, I've had fun just trying to, geez, I feel like I can't, I'm not even smart enough to fully explain this class, let alone macro it. So, wow, it's been a fun, hour. Let me just say, it has been a fun hour. So yeah, anyways, I love you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of my channel. If you're disappointed, I really am sorry, but I hope you understand. But yeah, let me know what you'd like to see me cover in the comments below. What if there's macros or whatever from other iterations of WoW out there that you'd like to see me try to do, or whatever it is. Let me know in the comments below, or other WoW content in general. Let me know. I'm all ears. But this concludes our macro session for Dragonflight. And with that being said, I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know by clicking that like button. And feel free to share it with your friends so they can enjoy it as well.
And if you'd like to see more videos, you can subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to be notified as soon as new videos are posted. You can also follow me on Facebook, and if you'd like, you can support my work on Patreon. Links to all that stuff can be found in the description below. This is TheKephas. Until next time.